I feel extremely humble, actually, to be sandwiched between Shimon Peres and Henry Kissinger tonight. Two absolute giants, two of my personal heroes, two living legends. I suppose, though, it is great to feel like the young thing again. You know, I first came across Henry when I became leader of the Labour Party in 1994, and look, I didn't know a lot about the world, okay? To be very frank. And I asked a very senior policy advisor, you know, what should I do to educate myself? He said, there's only one answer. He said, you've got to see Kissinger. I said, all right, Kissinger, really? He said, yep, 40 minutes of Henry is worth an entire degree course in international relations at Oxford. He said, particularly in your case. He said, ask him the broadest of questions, he'll give you the most precise of answers. So I saw Henry. I welcomed him in to the leader of the opposition's office, and I said, so, Dr. Kissinger, tell me about the world. And he did. Henry, there's no one quite like you. I doubt there ever will be, and it's an absolute honor to be with you here this evening. And you know I've paid tribute to Shimon Peres many, many times. What I always reflect upon with Shimon was that he was there when I came into office. He was there when I left office. He's still there now. I actually worked I worked out, Shimon, that you were a minister before I was born. He, as you know, he has many, many remarkable qualities. The brain, the wit, the deep motivation. But actually the most interesting thing about Shimon Peres is that his spirit is always in tomorrow's world. And you couldn't get a better or more apt title for this conference, I know he chose it himself, than tomorrow. And it's typical of him. And in my brief remarks to you tonight, I want to say how I believe we should approach tomorrow's world. We live today in an era of what you may call uniquely low predictability. And one of the things that I learned that was very irritating as Prime Minister was that unfortunately the crises don't come sequentially. So it would be nice if the financial crisis happened and you dealt with it before the Middle East erupted. But it doesn't happen like that. It comes together. And added to those changes are the major trends of change in our world today. The rise of the East, in particular, the rise of China. Technology, its scope and its pace and its range. The social media, which is itself, I think, a revolutionary phenomenon. And all of this change can shake our self-belief, us, the West. The financial crisis can shake our faith in markets. The new terrorism based on a perversion of religion presents us an enemy that confuses our military might. And so we ask, in this world of change, the 20th century belonged to us, but will the 21st century, will tomorrow belong to another? And my message to you tonight is very simple. It's that actually, despite it all, we should have confidence. However obscure the path to tomorrow may seem, the world is still moving our way. Our politics has its challenges, but there is no better system than democracy, where most of the time, politicians are more scared of the people than the people of the politicians. There is no better engine of economic progress than the enterprise and innovation of markets with clear and fairly enforced rules. And there are no better guardians of human progress than the free and open societies that we believe in. So the challenge that we face is large but clear. It's the challenge of change. This is a world with its finger on the fast forward button. And And so we have to change with it. Not to abandon our way of life, but to renew it. Now, I could talk about many things: the economic crisis, the Eurozone. We have to reform our banking system. We have to reduce our dependence on carbon. We have to reform the social model which grew up in the post-war years. But tonight, in these brief remarks, I just want to focus on one thing and one thing only. And that is this region. And I want to make 4 brief points about it. And the first is to the international community, and to the West in particular, to America and to Europe. I understand why, with the financial crisis occupying our minds, we may become tired of problems in different parts of the world. But I believe we have no option but to stay engaged with this part of the world and stay strong in it. These Arab revolutions, we know the issue is not how they begin, but how they end. And our interests are intimately bound up with that ending. And Iran is not only Israel's problem. We too have huge motivation in halting their advance to nuclear weapons capability, and we must have the will to prevent it, to say it, and to mean it. And the extremism that we face, based on this perversion of religion, from the mountains of Pakistan and Afghanistan down through sub-Saharan Africa, from Somalia across to Nigeria, needs our focus and our determination. Because in the end, it isn't simply a problem for those countries, it is our problem and is aimed at us. So I understand the fatigue, but we need to stay engaged and to stay strong. And our attitude should be that here in this region, where there has not been revolution, we should support evolution. And we should do that now, because the status quo will not hold. What are we learning in this region? That where governments stay in power but don't deliver for their people, the people in the end revolt. But what also are we learning? That a street gathering is not a government. A protest is not a policy. And Facebook conversations are not the same as complex decision-making. Countries need their economy to work. They need jobs for their young people. So we need now, in that engagement, to be working through a steady progress of evolution rather than the instant upheaval of revolution. But where there is revolution, we must defend true democracy. And I study what is happening in this region today, and I believe it is essential that we stand up and say very clearly, democracy is not just a way of voting, it's a way of thinking. Right? It's not just a technical system of deciding a government. It's actually an attitude of mind that determines the future. It's not simply about the freedom to vote, it's about freedom of expression, of free media, and it's about freedom of religion. So we need to ensure that this is the type of democracy that spreads across this region. And what is the nature of that attitude of mind? And this is the heart of what I want to say tonight. I spent my life in politics that was very traditional left versus right. And I still think that has a place in our politics, in yours, in mine, in America, and so on. But as I go on and I see the world, I think of every bit as great a distinction as left versus right is what I call the distinction between the open-minded and the closed-minded. And I look at immigration and the way the debate is conducted in Europe today, and I know we need proper rules. But I look at what immigration has done for our societies and our countries, and I never want to see us end up with an anti-immigrant frame of mind. I see huge pressures on economies, but I know that open trade is better than protectionism. And I believe that in a world of globalization, which is pushing people together, however strong our own religious faith is, we must never disrespect the faith of others. So we should be, when we address the challenge of tomorrow, we should be the advocates and champions of the open mind. And that, of course, is in part what founded this state of Israel. It was founded in part in flight from the hideous prejudice of a closed mind. And it has built itself today into this extraordinary country by embracing the open mind. I think of Israel at its best, its creativity seen in its technology, its principles seen in its respect for the rule of law, its civilization reflected in the art and culture that is so vibrant here. And it is that mind too, that open mind, that has led successive Israeli governments and leaders on the search for peace. And I know it is difficult right now and challenging, but I do believe that a peace, a lasting peace, with a secure state of Israel and a viable state of Palestine is a profound Israeli strategic interest as well as an interest of the world. Israel alone will not deliver it, can't deliver it. They require a partner for peace. But Israel should always strive for it. This Israel is the Israel in these last years that I've come to know. And this Israel, the Israel that embraces change and innovation and this open mind, is not a threat to this region, it's a model for it. And this is what defines the best of our civilization. And when I look at these two political giants, Shimon Peres and Henry Kissinger, and I see what they came through in their early lives and what they have achieved in their later lives, and I look at them today, still with wisdom to offer, still with commitment and dedication and service at the heart of what they do, what is it that has distinguished them from everyone else? Yes, of course, their brilliance and their education, but also their determination to create a world in which people, irrespective of race or nation or background or culture, can live together in harmony and in peace. So my plea at the start of this conference, focused on tomorrow, is for us to recognize that in this region, with this turmoil and upheaval all around us, this is the moment for those that believe in the open mind to stand up, to be counted, to have the self-belief and self-confidence to bring that message across this region and across this world. And there could be no two better representatives of that than Shimon Peres and Henry Kissinger. Let me conclude actually by some lines from the poet Longfellow in 1825. He went back to give the 50th anniversary oration at his college class. And so he was addressing people who were well on in years. And he pointed out to them in the course of this wonderful poem that Cato had learned Greek after the age of 80, and Goethe had completed Faust after the age of 80, and he went through a whole range of people in their 80s and 90s who'd done great things. And then he ended with these words. He said, "For age is opportunity no less than youth itself, though in another dress. And as the evening twilight fades away, The sky is filled with stars, invisible by day. I'm here tonight, still in an active role in this region. And sometimes, I have to tell you, it's quite challenging. But when I reflect on the challenge, I reflect on the contribution of people like Henry Kissinger and Shimon Peres. And I reflect that they too had their share of frustrations and challenges. But they kept going. And if the sky is filled with stars invisible by day, they are responsible for many of those stars that guide those that come after them. I am really, really proud to be here tonight and to pay my tribute to them, to thank Shimon personally for allowing me to make this address to you. It is a very humbling experience, but one I count as a great privilege and great honor. And when I look at them and I see them and I hear them, despite it all, I'm actually optimistic about tomorrow, and so should you be. Thank you.